Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today we are once again going to be discussing books, the Fellowship of the Ring as we have been, and then I also finished the new book that I was reading, which was called Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis, and that was a Greek myth that he basically retold or rewrote. And it was interesting for sure. It's not the style that I'm used to, so it also challenged me in that way. He already writes in a way that is profound and a lot deeper than just surface, so it already kind of takes some time to process what he writes. But this was like a whole new world. I don't know a ton about Greek mythology, just the basics that you learn in high school, so I learned about the myth of Cupid and Psyche, and then he kind of did his own twist on it. So it was interesting for sure. And definitely, I think we should all read books that challenge us and that are not what we're used to every now and then, just to keep our minds fresh and to just keep learning. That being said, I did start a new book this week. I haven't followed a ton of his podcast actually, but Patrick Bet-David, PBD, he wrote a fiction book called The Academy. And so I just started reading this book. I'm on chapter 3, I want to say, so just barely getting started. Fairly interesting so far. I don't know exactly what to expect, but it kind of traces back to the Iranian Revolution, and then he goes into from what I understand, it's more of like a dystopian world that the main character kind of enters into. So I did enjoy Divergent. I really liked that series. And so it kind of reminded me of that when I first heard about it. So that's why I put it on my list, and that's why I'm going to read it. So yeah, I'll let you guys know how I like it when I'm finished. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention in this video is I did a video recently about the introduction of Aragorn or Strider into the Lord of the Rings, and I never did one on Arwen, and I did read that part already. They were in Rivendell, and that's where they meet Arwen. They don't meet her while she's saving Frodo's life like the movie portrays. I think they did that just to condense the amount of different characters in the movie. But she is in Rivendell, and that's where they first meet her. And I just wanted to do an introduction for her like I did for Aragorn, just because they're probably my favorite fiction couple, and so I just wanted to kind of at least a little bit follow along their story and just who they are. So I'll just read here from the book where we get introduced to Arwen for the first time. Okay, so this is the part where they all sit down for a feast after Frodo is finally feeling better. It says, "In the middle of the table, against the woven cloths upon the wall, there was a chair under a canopy, and there sat a lady fair to look upon, and so like was she in form of womanhood to Elrond, that Frodo guessed that she was one of his close kindred. Young she was, and yet not so. The braids of her dark hair were touched by no frost. Her white arms and clear face were flawless and smooth, and the light of stars was in her bright eyes, gray as a cloudless night. Yet queenly she looked, and thought and knowledge were in her glance, as of one who has known many things that the years bring. Above her brow, her head was covered with a cap of silver lace, netted with small gems, glittering white. But her soft gray raiment had no ornament save a girdle of leaves wrought in silver. So it was that Frodo saw her, whom few mortals had yet seen, Arwen, daughter of Elrond, in whom it was said that the likeness of Luthien had come on earth again, and she was called Undomael, for she was the Evenstar of her people. Long had she been in the land of her mother's kin, in Lorien beyond the mountains, but was lately returned to Rivendell to her father's house." So that's our first introduction to Arwen, what she looks like, who she is, and then we'll see a bit more of her and Aragorn's story as we continue to read. They mentioned Luthien in that passage, and Luthien it's kind of a similar story of Aragorn and Arwen, for those who know the story. Obviously, Aragorn is mortal, Arwen is immortal, she's an elf, and he's a human. And it was the same case with Beren and Luthien. Beren was a man, Luthien was an elf, she was immortal, and they had this beautiful love story that is told. Some of it's told in the Silmarillion, and then there's also even an extended version of their story. And what's really beautiful about the story of Beren and Luthien is that Tolkien kind of based that story on him and his wife. And so I thought that was really beautiful. Basically, at one point, he loved forests and trees and nature, but especially trees. And I think him and his wife were just hanging out in the woods, and she just started to dance for him or something along those lines. And it's said that he based Luthien's character on her in that moment. And then basically from that point on, they were kind of known as Beren and Luthien within his own stories. And even on their gravestone today, it says Beren under his name and Luthien on her gravestone. And so I just thought it was a really sweet love story that goes beyond the books and is based on a real story, which much fiction is. So anyways, that's all I have for you guys this week. There's a lot more to talk about, but it's more in depth and kind of a different theme, so I'll go into that next week. But if there's anything you want me to talk about at all that is along the lines of what my channel's about, please leave a comment below. And other than that, happy reading.